The Daily Nation captures the third term of the school term. How to clinch top senior school slot. Remember, this is the third term. In fact, schools are opening today. And we'll be looking at traffic to one that has affected traffic this Monday. So KJSEA, that's the exam that's anticipated this term alongside KCSE. This is a good one. Serikali kukopesha raia kujenga ushago. Utapata mkopo wa kujenga ushago nyumba. Milioni 4, tutangazia zaidi. And Kenya targets dirty money gangs in grey listing fight. Matters money laundering on the front page of the Star. Business, cash crisis as budgets of 26 counties rejected by who? By the controller of budget. We'll be looking at that later on. Today on State of the Nation, these 4 gentlemen will be in studio. Kipruto Rapkirwa, Mesha Kodede, Dr. Makali Mulu, who's the MP Kitui Central, and Wakili Dr. Adrian Kamodo. Do stand by for that at 6:30. Let's go regional and see what's the big headline. Of course, matters football, still dominating the headlines in East Africa. All 3 hosts were bundled out of the tournament. Ilikuwa ni weekend ya uchungu, lakini we move on. Chan and eponymous politics is there on the front page of the East African, but that's not the main story. The main story is Ugandan firm to name big oil block partners. Global majors Total and CNOOC have shunned UNOC in funding activities in Kasuruban block. Now the state farm is set to unveil new allies. That story is on page 5. Matters oil prospecting in Uganda. Jitters as Kenya-DRC relations plummet. This has been developing for a while. Kenya's foreign policy. Matters diplomacy there. They say the rejection by Congo of Kenya's envoy to rebel-held Goma exposes a festering diplomatic row between the 2 states. And another story there on the front page of the East African is Matters South Sudan, why Kir keeps firing his finance ministers. Matters South Sudan. Let's go to Uganda and take a look at how things are developing there. We start off with the Daily Monitor. The Queen's fight for King's approval. That's a big headline on the Daily Monitor. So there's a conflict. The eyeball-to-eyeball fight blew up when President Museveni, who chaired the Saturday NRM Party National Executive Committee, that's a NEC session, asked that Ms. Kadaga and Ms. Ammend be allowed to present their cases before NEC to hear them out and choose who was better suited to be presented to the National Conference delegates for final approval. So there's a competition between Anita Ammend, who's a Speaker of the Parliament, and Rebecca Kadaga. Matters NRM, chama tawala kule Uganda. Remember the elections in Uganda coming up in January next year. So matters politics dominating the headlines in Uganda. Yes, it is the same story on the front page of the New Vision, still in Uganda. NRM top organ to decide among Kadaga fate. Among here is someone's name, the Speaker of Parliament. So NRM top organ is set to decide who between the 2 of them will get the approval of NRM. The other story, yes, more oil wells ready for production. This story, we've seen it on the front page of the East African. It is there on the front page of the New Vision. This space is usually reserved for Yoweri Museveni, but not today. Hakuenda kusalamia watu. Other quick stories there. Rising billionaire creates 13,000 jobs. I wish he could come to Kenya. Iko hapo juu pages 10 and 11. We need those jobs in Kenya as well. Tuvuke boda twende Bongo, and we start off with gazeti la Mwananchi. Chekeche lapita nao. Uteuzi wa ubunge CCM. Masuala ya siasa yanapewa kipaumbele kule Tanzania. Kumbuka uchaguzi mkuu unawadia Oktoba 29, miezi miwili tu toka sasa. Wanasema nusu ya waliokuwa wabunge wa bunge la 12 wakwama kwenye mchakato wa uteuzi. Waliokuwa wabunge viti maalum walivyopeleka vilio majimboni. Wale nominated MPs wanaenda kukampeni. Nominated MPs hawaso campaigning in Uganda. Wanamnukuu hapa Rais Samia Suluhu Hassan akisema kama ilivyo desturi yetu CCM, mchakato wa uteuzi unapoisha na makundi nayo yaishe, na ushindani ndani ya chama nao uishe. Tunarudi kuwa kitu kimoja ili tuingie kwenye uchaguzi tukiwa wamoja. Lakini najua siasa za chama haikuangi rahisi hivyo. Habari zingine pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele, Rais Samia aitaka INEC kutenda haki uchaguzi mkuu. Ni masuala tu ya uchaguzi. Kila kitu uchaguzi. Daktari Mpango awabana vigogo, ataka udhibiti mali ya umma. Chauma pia ilipopeleka nguvu yajipiga stop mtifuano urais Zanzibar. Masuala ya siasa bado yanapewa kipaumbele. Hata pale juu on the top strip gazeti la Mwananchi, Mzigo unawasubiri Migiro, Kihongosi, CCM. Unaona ni CCM, Chauma. Siasa. Tanzania wazungumzi mambo mengine, lakini tuangazie gazeti la The Citizen probably. Hata hapa. Usually this paper is reserved for matters business, but today you can actually see it's about CCM. Matters politics getting prominence on all the dailies in Tanzania. What CCM reshuffle means as campaign period draws closer. The reshuffle of CCM's top brass has attracted mixed reviews from a cross-section of political pundits over what its implications could be ahead of the ruling party's campaign and its performance in the October 29 general election. That's a big story there. Samia urges INEC to ensure fairness in general election. It is also there. But at least matters transport and infrastructure getting some space. Pitfalls of using border borders as school buses. Remember, schools reopen even in Tanzania. For many parents in Tanzania, border borders have become the easiest way to get children to school. From 3-year-olds in nursery to 9-year-olds in primary school, motorcycle taxis are increasingly being trusted to ferry pupils every morning. But the cost of this convenience has been deadly. The story is on page 2. So with most schools charging between 40,000 and 100,000, don't worry, this is Tanzanian money. They charge 40,000 and 100,000 per month for transport. Motorcycle taxis will charge 1,000 per trip. And they've now become the alternative despite their poor safety record. Yeah. Would you send your child to school on a border? That's a question in Kenya. Wanted, privacy at mobile money outlets. Concerns are mounting over the safety and privacy of customers at mobile money agent outlets, where transactions involving large sums of cash are often carried out in full view of others. Unaenda pale kwa M-Pesa, ukitoa pesa jamaa amekuangalia tu hapo nyuma na kuangalia zikihesabiwa anajua tu. Ukitoka hapo shauri yako. Well, those are the regional dailies, and we'll be back to take a look at the local ones in a short while. For now, as schools reopen for the third term, let's take a look at the weather situation. Kumbuka, last week we were experiencing quite some colds in most parts of the country. Is it any different now? And we won't start with Nairobi. Let's start at the coasts. It is a bit warmer there, but it promises to be a cloudy day with chances of rainfall later on. Highs of 27 degrees in Mombasa, 1.4 millimeters in as far as precipitation is concerned. Kutakuwa na manyunyu Mombasa leo. And this will persist for the entire week. Highs of 27 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday and into the weekend. So it is a fairly warm week in Mombasa. Up north in Garissa, it is 23 degrees today, mostly cloudy as well. Chances of rainfall as we speak, kidogo tu, 0.3 millimeters. Highs of 32. This is the warmest we'll see across the country. A lot of sunshine in the afternoon. Let's go to the areas around the Rift Valley, and it's a bit chilly this morning in Nakuru, 15 degrees as we speak. Clear with periodic clouds. Very little chance of rainfall, but yes, in the afternoon. In fact, this is the highest we'll see. Highs of 24 degrees with 3.9 millimeters of rainfall. So Nakuru, so far we can see Nakuru, at least huko ndio tuko sure kutakuwa na mvua later. The rain likely to hit around 1 p.m. It is around Mount Kenya region, 15 degrees Celsius in Nyeri. It feels quite cold this morning. It's a cloudy day. Chances are very high of rainfall. Highs of 22 degrees. So Nyeri, a bit cold today, 1.5 millimeters, which is even lower than what Nakuru people will experience today as far as rainfall is concerned. Areas around the Lake Victoria region. Take a look at Kisumu, 19 degrees Celsius. Very high humidity, mostly cloudy day. Highs of 27 degrees, and yes, there is a chance of rainfall later on in the evening around 4 p.m. It could rain, but not a lot of rainfall, 1.8 millimeters of rain. Sunny day, giving chance to about some rainfall jioni. Nairobi is mostly cloudy today, 15 degrees as we speak, which is a bit warmer, but it wouldn't get beyond 22 degrees, so it is also a cold week. And warming up later in the week, probably into the weekend, 23, highs of 23 for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday gets to 24. So it promises to get warmer as we progress through the week. But today, a bit chilly, even as schools reopen. 22 degrees Celsius is a high, 0.1 millimeters of rainfall. So a bit warmer weather, very little rain in most parts of the country. Now, kizungumkuti hapa. We're going to experience a lot of traffic today because schools are back. And this is a map, major tributaries into town, and you can already see. Areas around Muthurwa, where most of the transport is concentrated, Machakos bus station, railway bus station, where we have all the vehicles going to north, rift, and western part of the country. You can already see both sides of the road are very busy, from railway down to Landis Road. That is where we're going to experience a lot of traffic as people try to make their way back to schools. Jogoo Road also developing very fast around Makadara, all the way to City Stadium roundabout. It's getting busy. And you can see, yes, niliwaambia shule zikirudi, last week kama uko enjoy free traffic imeanza kupanda. You can see at this time of day, 11 minutes past the hour, and Muthaiga interchange is already very busy. This red section here, and the traffic is already building into Thika Road, is piling back as far as the Mathare Mental Hospital, meaning that it's going to get very heavy traffic this morning, especially on Thika Road. As schools reopen, zile buses za yellow zimerudi barabarani. You can also see this stretch between Githurai and Kasarani. No, actually between Kasarani and Allsops, yes. Areas around Garden City, it is very busy. That whole stretch of red from Kasarani all the way to Allsops. Shule zimerudi. So kama ulikuwa umezoea kulala sana ati sababu watoto wamefunga shule, kumbuka, wamefungua, ulipe school fees na uende ukae kwa traffic kiasi ukielekea kazini. Areas around Outer Ring Road not so bad, Kangundo Road not so bad as well, and the other side of town, areas around Ngong Road, Langata Road, not looking bad at all, and Wayaki Way too. So the biggest traffic we're seeing is around town and Thika Road as well. So we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in a while. I don't know if we have the quote of the day.
Every mistake whispers, stay humble. Life isn't about being right, it's about learning, evolving, and honoring the journey with an open heart.
Yes, the backlash from the National Assembly following the President's pronouncement about alleged corruption in the Houses of Parliament still dominating the headlines. And this is what we have on the front page of the Standard today, use and dump. But if you read the story, it's about MPs exposing the kind of communication that has been going on between them and the President. What we see there on the front page are excerpts from a WhatsApp group where they were communicating between MPs and the President, and the kind of, what do I call this, a relationship. How the President has been controlling Parliament. Yes. Hapa, hii ni kama ile tu ya kuimba sifa za rais kwa hiyo WhatsApp group. Oh, rais, you are always right. Rais, you are doing this. You are the good one. So they call him the puppeteer. Communication, including excerpts from in-house WhatsApp groups in our possession, the possession of this paper, reveal President William Ruto's hand in parliamentary misdeeds, despite his recent tirade against the House. From passing of the unpopular Finance Bill 2024, alikuwa pale, to removal of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, ni kama alikuwa anasema ati the President was never involved. Kuna straight tumepata communication, according to this paper, what the President said about the impeachment, what he said about the Finance Bill, and what he said about other bills, including the Affordable Housing Act of 2024. Ruto has used Parliament to serve his agenda and not the people's. And this story is there on pages 4 and 5. Wanachoma kuchoma, MPs now on a break. Wanasema vile huyu jamaa amewatumia sasa. How legislators are whipped to support House business aligned with the President's agenda. Critical bills may be quietly shelved while those with less impact sail through. That story there on page 4 and 5 of this paper. Matters road accidents, spike as project to retest drivers hangs in the balance. As schools reopen today, this is a huge concern. The safety of our children heading back to schools. I know you hamtaki kusikia, but Chan is still on the back page of this paper. Najua hiyo tournament imepoteza ladha. No one is really interested in watching the game, but wacha niwaambie, semi-finals will be played tomorrow. Then this is on the back page of the Standard. Madagascar versus Sudan, and then Morocco versus Senegal. And that's a big one tomorrow. Morocco versus Senegal will be played at the Mandela National Stadium in Kampala. And the other semi-final, Madagascar versus Sudan, Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Tanzania. Remember, the finals will be played at the Kasarani this coming weekend. How fine margins have reduced Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania into fans. Mulikaa, mukazungumuza, mukatetesha majirani, mukawaambia hawafiki, hawatoshi mboga, nyinyi wote mko nje. And I was looking at one of the cartoons. Kila mtu hapa East Africa ametupwa nje, muna-watch mpira kama fans. Yes. That's the back page of the Standard. Matters Chan. Kenyans are not interested, neither Tanzanians or Ugandans. But you have to play host and be good. All right. From the Standard, the president still on the front page of the People Daily. Inside Ruto's moves to silence critics. That story is on page 8. Still looking at how the president has managed to ensure that his critics are silenced. But this paper has other stories as well. The scandals haunting Kenya Kwanza government and Battle Royale as IEBC sets timelines for November polls. But the president still remaining on the front page of this paper. People Daily. People's politics, smart minds. That's their motto there. The Daily Nation steered clear of politics today, talking matters of education as schools reopen. So wanasema how to clinch senior school slots. Remember, the very first cohort of pupils who are in junior secondary school will be heading to senior schools starting next year. And that is something new that we are yet to experience. These are grade 9ers. More than 1.2 million grade 9 learners to sit exam in November. So the National Examinations Council Chief Executive Officer David Njengere explaining in this paper how the Kenya Junior School Education Assessment, what you're calling KGCEA, will be a summative test accounting for 60% of the final marks for grade 9 learners, the grade 6 main exam, as well as school-based assessments in grade 7 and 8 will be contributing the other 40%. This has never happened before in our education system. Inakuanga ile exam ya mwisho ndio ina determine where you move. Lakini sasa wanasema even the exams that they did previously in grade 6, 7 and 8 will contribute to the final marks for them going to senior school next year. So many parents do not know a lot about this, but the Daily Nation has done you justice on page 8 of this paper. They're explaining how learners will get senior school slots and how this will align with career pathways. Other stories on the front page, Affordable Housing Fund to give 4 million loans for building rural homes. Parliament has approved new regulations for those with savings in the fund to secure loans to construct rural houses. Not bad at all. This story is on page 2, and I know many people who are hoping to build houses in rural areas. Kenyans can now borrow up to 4 million shillings from the Affordable Housing Fund to develop rural affordable housing units after Parliament approved new regulations. The National Assembly Committee on Delegated Legislation has cleared the draft Affordable Housing Regulations 2025 developed by the Public Works Housing and Urban Developments, CS Alice Wahome. Yes, but there are rules and regulations. Si ati nitakuwa kazi rahisi kupata hiyo pesa, but definitely something positive. Yeah. There's a story here on page 3 saying, think before you text when that WhatsApp chat lands you in court. More WhatsApp users are now finding themselves in court because of careless group messages that can attract fines or even jail terms under the Cybercrimes Act. Usiende tu kwa WhatsApp group waende kuandika tu mambo yako vile unataka. Utaenda kotini. Yeah. This week is also a special week in matters constitution. Remember, August 27th is when the Constitution 2010 was promulgated. This is exactly 15 years ago. We'll be marking that in 2 days' time. Today is August 25th. So on Wednesday this week will be exactly 15 years since the current Constitution came into force. So in the Daily Nation, they talk about Katiba at 15. And they have a story there about the day Kibaki and Raila increased devolved units from 14 to 27. Yeah. And the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula recalls how proposal for 14 regional governments was discarded during high-stakes constitutional review talks. If you don't know how we came to this constitution, this week you'll get a lot of stories on how it happened. On the back page, still Matters Chan. Kenyans don't like this story much, but itabidi too. McCarthy's hand in the rise of Stars goalkeeper Omondi. Yes, now we are shifting our focus to the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. That story is what is there on the back page of the Daily Nation. And His Highness the Aga Khan is visiting Kenya for the very first time after he took over that position. Remember, this is the son of the Aga Khan who passed on earlier this year and was laid to rest somewhere in Egypt. Now he's traveling to Kenya for the very first time as His Highness the Aga Khan. That's the Daily Nation. Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Sasa hii ndio habari ambayo maybe pengine Wakenya wengi watafurahia. Serikali kukopesha raia kujenga ushago. Ndio habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Anasema raia sasa kupewa hadi shilingi milioni 4 kujenga nyumba vijijini chini ya hazina ya nyumba za bei nafuu. Usiseme umekosa pesa. Kama wewe ni contributor wa hii affordable housing, you can access 4 million shillings as a loan. Hata hivyo wanasema yapo masharti makali kwa anayetaka kukopa, kama vile sharti awe mchangiaji wa hiari. Wewe ni mchangiaji wa hiari ama wewe ni ule umekatwa unakasirika umekatwa kwa payslip? Wewe si wa hiari. Mchangiaji wa hiari kwa hazina husika na awe na kibali kutoka katika kaunti yake. Ni masharti tu ndio upate mkopo wa kujenga nyumba wapi? Ushago. Alikuwa mbunge Lempurkel aga dunia. Amekuwa hospitalini tangu ahusike katika ajali barabarani. Lempurkel alikuwa mbunge wa Laikipia North. Mtihani wa kwanza wa KJSEA mwaka 2025. Fahamu mengi kuhusu tathmini hii ya kwanza nchini itakavyofanywa na wanafunzi takriban milioni 1.2. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Masuala ya shule. Kumbuka leo watoto wengi wanarejea shuleni kwa muhula wa 3 wa masomo yao. Kibaki Raila walivyorarua katiba ya 2010. Njama ya kinara wa ODM na rais wa 3 ilizidisha county kutoka 14 hadi 47. So how did we end up with 47 counties instead of 14? Learn more on this paper. It's a story also on the front page of the Daily Nation. Pale juu, masuala ya siasa sasa. Ishara, Kenya moja itaungana na Gachagua na Kalonzo. Mrengo wa Sifuna na wa Mushomba unania wa kumshinda Ruto mwaka 2027. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Na kandanda. Ndovu arejea juu ya mti EPL baada ya kushinda tena. Wale Arsenal walitandika timu moja mabao 5 kwa nunge. Vijana wembe wa Arteta wanyanyasa Leeds. Spurs ikimduaza Pep. So Arsenal back on top of the Premier League table after their 5-0 win against Leeds United. Wengine kama Manchester United nafikiri walipoteza, wale ni wanyongeni. Na leo hawana mtetezi hapa studio, kwa hivyo tunawamaliza, tunakanyaga kabisa. On the Star, Kenya targets dirty money gangs in grey list fight, matters money laundering. And I do have a physical copy of the Star as well. Tuangazie pale. Some 56 real estate agencies and 19 companies on the state radar. Chatusome, because the story is there on pages 4 and 5 of this paper, matters money laundering. It is a big deal. Lakini wengi wapendi kuzungumzia hiyo because ina benefit watu kadhaa. So the government has intensified the crackdown on perpetrators of illicit financial flows and money laundering through real estate and shell companies as the country faces increased scrutiny from the international community. Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing Trends and Typologies Report 2025 by FRC has flagged suspicious transactions valued at 6.97 trillion shillings. It's bigger than our annual economy, bigger than our annual budget, the amount of money that's being traded chini. So 56 is the number of real estate agencies on state radar, 119 companies under surveillance, and 9 is the number of betting firms on the watch list. About 8,057 people. These are the number of suspicious transactions and reports. And a number of politicians, businessmen, and women are on the radar. Matters dirty money So that's the main story there on the front page of the Star. A very interesting photo there on the front page of this paper, KWS officers moving giraffes from Kedong Ranch for safety. Na wanang'ang'ana hapo wanaume kama 30 na giraffe moja, anaitwa twiga. Yeah. Kindiki has turned his village home into political command post 2027. I think he wants to create his own Wamunyoro as well. That story is on page 2. Matters campaigns. And kuna mahali wanazungumzia this deputy president and his streets. Ni kama ile position yake inaendelea kuwa smaller and smaller as Raila Odinga increases his occupancy in the broad-based arrangement. That's the Star, fresh, independent, different. You can grab yourself a copy of this paper for 60 bob hapa Kenya. Finally, Matters business. Cash crisis as budgets of 26 counties rejected. Budget controller withholds approval over non-compliance, and Treasury CS Mbadi says July funds have been released as at August 11th. So at least 26 counties are staring at a cash crunch after the controller of budget, Margaret Nyakango, declined to approve their budgets due to non-compliance and blocking disbursements. Kuna vile wamefanya, wakaambiwa hiyo pesa itoki sasa. Put your houses in order. That's the main story on the Business Daily. The other story, banks trigger shifts in most valuable NSE firms. Listed banks have risen to the top of the most valuable companies at the Nairobi Securities Exchange over the past decade, riding on their higher profitability. Remember, banks always make profits year on year. Whether wewe mfuko yako imekauka ama imefanya, banks are always making profits. Profitability as industrial stocks struggle to keep pace amid that growth in a tough economy. On the ticker, farmers ditching Hustler Fund for Fuliza and bank loans. Farmers are ditching the state's Hustler Fund and microfinance banks, turning to big banks and Fuliza for credit to finance agricultural activities. That's a survey there. That story is on page 4. Only 40% of foreign firms plan expansion in Kenya, and CBK goes big on long-term bonds over low interest rates. Matters business on Business Daily. Once again, a reminder of the people we'll be having at 6:30 for State of the Nation. Kipruto Rapkirwa, who served as Agriculture Minister in Kibaki 1 administration. Political commentator Mesha Kodede, Kitui Central MP Dr. Makali Mulu, and Wakili Dr. Adrian Kamotho will be in studio. So do stand by for that. Coming your way at 6:30 this morning as we take a look at the big headlines. Sasa tuangazie karakacha, tuangazie, tujue watu wa wachoraji wanazungumzia nini leo. And we start off with a cartoon on the Daily Nation. So we have a lot of sheep down here. Na kuna wale speaker wa bunge pale. Upande moja hapa tuko na caricature of the president and his now ally, Raila Odinga. And he's holding a rod with handcuffs at the end and he's looking at parliament. Ni kama amewakaba ko. Na ile advice inatoka kwa speakers wakizungumzia mbuzi. Wanaambia advice on how to bleat. Yani kazi ya wabunge sasa ni kubleat as sheep. Hivyo ndo mumeambiwa na huyu cartoonist. Sio mimi, ni huyu mchoraji amesema wabunge ni mbuzi. Sio mimi nimesema, msinikasirikia. Punguza hasira. Mchoraji amesema. Daily Nation. Mambo ya Mulima. Rigiji alirejea nyumbani last week and I think he's back on the cartoons. He's coming to repair a car pale ya DCP. Anasema this Mulima engine will crash the one-time wheelbarrow. Lakini gari ni kama hata exhaust imeanguka, mguu iko chini nini. He has a lot to do. Remember in his absence, 40 days in the US, there was a lot of lull in the opposition. Kulikuwa almost mute. They went mute, but at least on Friday, I saw the former deputy president and one of the other leading opposition luminaries, Kalonzo Musyoka, watching the Harambee Stars game together. Kini walisema alienda kakaa huko, while he was away, we were winning the games. When he came back, we lost. This is a cartoon on People Daily. This is a standard. We have two frames here. On one hand, we have Bunge with a very big stomach talking to Wanjiku pale. Wanasema the president is being unfair, accusing us of being greedy and corrupt. Hao wabunge wanasema hapa. But in the dark, wanasema we are not. If we were, we would have demanded for more on impeaching Gachagua. Huyu hajawaambia vizuri. Kule mwingine wa Nation amesema wenye ni mbuzi. Na hapa wanasema you are too greedy, you would have asked for more money to impeach the deputy president. MPs wakipati vizuri. Cartoon on the Star. Sasa yeye ni kuambia mko nje nyinyi wote. Milango ni tatu, the 3 hosts of the CHAN tournament, Uganda, Tanzania and Kenya, all of them ni kama walikuwa wamekubaliana, all of them nje. So pale tu kuna miguu imewakanyaga, out the door, out Neja. Yes. Kenya, Uganda na Tanzania, lakini ni vizuri tulishindwa sisi wote, because nakuambia Kenya tungeshindwa alafu Tanzania washinde. Sijui tungekaa wapi. Jirani walikuwa wanataka kutumaliza. Ni vizuri sasa jirani amenyamaza, majirani wote wamenyamaza. Hata sisi tumekubali tanyamaza. Yeah, we are all quiet. All right, so that is what we'll be talking about on the State of the Nation after the break. Remember, you can interact with us on our social media pages on X, TV47 Digital. It's a new account. Follow it. You can use my handle as well at Fred Indimuli, the hashtag Morning Cafe. You can also interact with us through YouTube at TV47 Kenya, Facebook as well. TV47 Kenya is our page there. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more.
What?
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow any
Welcome back and good morning once again. My name is Freddie Ndumule. This is Morning Cafe on TV47, State of the Nation. A look at the big headlines today, and one of the biggest discussions is still around the tiff between President William Ruto and members of Parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly. It is there on the front page of the Standard under the headline, Use and Dump. And now members of the Parliament are coming out and talking about how the President has been directing them on how to conduct their parliamentary business. And we have excerpts of WhatsApp discussions where the President and MPs interact and talk about what should be happening. A lot of the MPs are not very happy with the President telling them that they are corrupt. And we do have one of them, Senator for Kakamega, Boni Khalwale, asking the President to name those who he feels are corrupt within the Houses of Parliament. Let's watch that story before I introduce my panelists.
Mheshimiwa Rais, hawa waheshimiwa ambao ulisema unataka kushika, wenye wanafanya wizi, shika haraka, tunataka kuwajua. But Your Excellency, kwa mkono huu, ukishika MPs ambao ni waizi, nataka kwa mkono hii ingine, na wewe ushike watu katika ofisi yako na katika cabinet yako ambao pia wao ni waizi. Na wewe Your Excellency unajua. Linturi mwenye uliachisha kazi aliipa mbolea. Walikuwa wanaiba na barasa wa Kakamega wakileta mawe. Tunataka uanze nao tuone umeshika. Ndio tujue kweli kwako hakuna mwizi mzuri ama mwizi mbaya, wote ni waizi. Rais, na kukumbusha tu ni maneno ambayo unajua, wewe uliposhinda kura, Rigathi Gachagua aliyekuwa deputy president alikuwa ameiba 7.2 billion shillings. Kesi yake ilikuwa inaendelea katika mahakama. Wewe ukasimamisha hiyo kesi. Tunataka kesi ya Gachagua 7.2 billion yenye alikuwa ameiba, na ile ya marafiki zako wengine ambao wewe ulisimamisha, akiwemo kina waziri Aisha Juma huko Mombasa, wote urudishe hizo kesi ziishe, wafungwe, na hiyo mali waliiba warudishe. Hiyo pesa ilikuwa ya umma, ifanyie watu wetu maendeleo, isomeshe watoto wetu.
The president and members of parliament who are now calling him out, dominating the discussions last week. That is a discussion that we start off with this Monday, and according to the Standard, they call the president the puppeteer. So communication, including excerpts from in-house WhatsApp groups in the possession of this daily, reveal President William Ruto's hand in parliamentary misdeeds despite his recent tirade against the House. From passing of the unpopular Finance Bill 2024 to removal of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and passing of unpopular laws such as the Affordable Housing Act of 2024, Ruto has used Parliament to serve his agenda and not the people's. This morning, we are very much privileged to have my immediate right, Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who has been a member of Parliament representing Cherangani constituency, and he has also served as Minister for Agriculture in the Kibaki One administration. Karibu sana, Bwana Kirwa.
Thank you.
Alongside Bwana Kirwa, we have Dr. Makali Mulu, who is the MP Kitui Central. Good morning. These are gentlemen who understand the workings of Parliament and the kind of influence that the executive can have on both houses of Parliament. And this is a discussion we've been having for a very long time. How Parliament has ceded too much ground to the executive, and to a point where they lost credibility from the eyes of Mwananchi. So when you see this kind of exchange, members of Parliament now actually revealing the kind of communication they've been having, because for this paper to have excerpts from WhatsApp groups where the president is involved, it means that one member of Parliament actually showed the journalists. So this is what has been going on. But is it unusual? Bwana Kirwa, you served in the National Assembly.
Yes.
Is it unusual for the executive to have this kind of influence on Parliament?
Well, it is very interesting because for the 4 terms I served, 3 of them I served with President Moi as a member of Parliament for Cherangani, Kano ticket. The first one being it was the only party at that particular time. My second term, we were now operating under multi-party. And the third term, same multi-party. Then the final term I served under President Kibaki. For the first 3 terms that I served under Kanu, the executive was still calling the shots. Remember that particular time, at some stage, Kanu was the only party allowed under Constitution, courtesy of Section 2A, which we were able to amend in the run-up to 1992 general elections. I remember, I think it should have been December of 1991 that we amended that particular section of the Constitution. Upon amendment, therefore, we now ushered in multipartyism, but still President Moi yielded a lot of power, both in terms of the numbers in the House. We were more than 50% Kanu, and the rest of the House was comprising other political parties in the opposition. In 1997, as he was serving his last term, he still yielded some huge power, given the fact that even NDP, that was now ushered in by Raila Odinga when he split from Fort Kenya, still boosted the numbers of Kanu, and therefore some of us were seen as Kanu rebels, not considered to be integral part of Kanu, courtesy of Raila Odinga coming to join Kanu to form that coalition, starting with cooperation. In 2002, the NAC wave that swept the House, close to 125 seats, were won by NAC, therefore making one of the largest parties at that particular time, or almost in the history of this country. given the fact that the other seats were split by KANU and a few other opposition parties. That Parliament acquired a colossal position, and the Parliament became almost stronger than the executive. A lot of work was given to Parliament, the style of Kibaki, that don't interfere with anything that is operating, allow institutions to flourish. So Parliament almost became rogue. And that's the time that we witnessed a bit of presence of members of Parliament asking for kickbacks to deal with issues that were even mundane, coming from the ministry. I witnessed that because even previous, I was assistant minister twice. This therefore means it is not because I was part of the executive that I witnessed that. But for the last number of terms since 2010 Constitution, it seems that thing has become rampant. And it's not all members of Parliament. There are certain members of Parliament that get involved in that. Now, this particular regime of President William Ruto has been the most vicious in terms of watering down the other institutions. The institution of Parliament was decimated by him bringing all the numbers in his favor. And of course, the judiciary was also threatened, as you know. And therefore, for him to have the audacity to tell us that Parliament is corrupt and is not part of that corruption network is, to say the least, foolhardy. And it's also akin to him trying to mock the public, because we know corruption has been pervasive in all arms of government. What they are calling judicial pesa for the judiciary, whatever has been happening in Parliament, including the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, and many other things that have been happening. We've known that money has been changing hands. And within the executive, we know colossal amounts of money, including the 11 billion that is seen to have gone elsewhere other than where it ought to have been. So, in other words, I have this feeling, Fred, without really overreaching myself, that President William Ruto is just keen on trying to reinvent himself as we go towards the next general election by vilifying Parliament, making some of them so cowardly, and making even some of the governors realize that they are in trouble. In the process, he may even jail one or two of his ministers just to prove a point. And once he does that, Kenyans will say, okay, this is now Saul has turned into Paul. Okay. And therefore, he may need to be re-elected for purposes of completing his agenda. Right. That's the way I see it.
Dr. Makali Mulu, the Standard appears to suggest that the president has used Parliament to some extent, and now he's dumping them. It's use and dump. Is that the feeling you get, that this is a president who has really enjoyed a lot of leeway in as far as legislative processes for the first 3 years of his term, and now he's done with that?
Thank you so much, Fred, for hosting us. Fred, I think the last session we had with you and Mheshimiwa Kirwa is the time the president just made the remarks that Parliament is corrupt. And I remember what I said then has actually come to pass. The truth of the matter is, the president, when he was elected, from the word go, decided to use Parliament to achieve his objective in terms of getting the legislation done, in terms of getting his budgets passed. And this is a normal procedure normally. When you are president, you have a lot to do with the executive. Yes. And many times, many executives, and more so in developing countries where democracy is still not mature, would always, their work, their agenda number one is to weaken other institutions, other arms of government, so that they are able to govern as they wish. And you remember, Fred, when immediately after election, And that debate, I think we also had that debate in this house, the debate of which party was the majority and the minority. And it was obvious that Azimio was the majority party in terms of numbers in parliament. And that's where the rain started beating us. Because it is at that point the president went out of his way to make sure that he gets MPs from the majority side, which was Azimio, to add to his number so that he becomes a majority. And the whole objective of that was to secure the speakership position in parliament. So what happened? Independent members of parliament and members of parliament who were in the Azimio coalition were actually approached by the executive then so that they cross over and work with the executive. By doing that, it is obvious we know what happened. People were given offers, and I think from that point the president realized that we have a house which has so many weak members that they can be bought like bread in a shop. That was basically the issue. And from that time, he got his way. So what has happened over time? Anytime he wants to pass something through parliament, he would call a PG in State House. And when they go there for PG, because they are our colleagues, and we take tea together. You know, when we are in the house, we hardly talk about party issues there. We take tea at the same table. So anytime they go to State House, they come back smiling. So what has happened is over time, the president has realized that now this house is actually a house I can do whatever I want with. And you remember the finance bill that happened? When we were passing the SHA laws, it happened. You remember we were passing those SHA laws. Within 30 minutes, you pass a whole act of parliament, which is going to have a serious impact on Kenyans. And the few of us who used to say, allow us to go on record some of these challenges, we hear some of them. There's one of the members, a notorious member, who we've named him Weka Swali. Weka Swali means you just pass the law without debate. And would insist that it's important we debate, so that those who don't agree will go on record that they object to some of the things. But we will just pass because already serious mobilization has been done. And you heard Moses Kuria say that those, unfortunately, for the 13 years I've been in parliament, I've never been a member of the majority, I'm always the minority. So what has happened? You heard Moses Kuria say that they know that after Weka Swali and they say yes, they used to flock a certain office to go and be now rewarded for doing a good job. And I think that's where we lost it. So to me, the way I look at what is happening now, there are two things which have happened, and they are very important in this country. One of them, the president has realized that he's lost it. And now he's trying to regain, kind of redeem his image. And by doing so, he says, in case I don't redeem it, then I don't die alone. So he uses the Samson's principle, where Samson said, God, give me another chance just for this time. And he crashed the house and everybody dies with him. So it is in an attempt to do that now he says, you guys have to throw you under the bus, so that in case I'm dying, we die together. And this is not the first time the president is throwing the MPs under the bus. He did it during the finance bill, you remember? Where we said, tumepitisha kama mbunge, then he went there and said, no, it is wrong, he rejected. So a number of times, the members of parliament on the Kenya Kwanza side have been thrown under the bus. Now, this is the last time now, where now they have been thrown under the bus. But what has happened, which is very good for this country, and I think Kenyans have a reason to thank the Almighty God for this. I think God has realized that if I don't save this institution called parliament, my people will suffer up to the end. So what has happened, to me, is an eye-opener. That you members of parliament, you lost it. You became part of the pockets of the president. Now, time has come for you to get out of the president's pocket. By doing what? By now claiming your position as it is expected in the Constitution.
All right.
Because you know our position is what is stated in the Constitution. So anytime I see the WhatsApp I'm seeing here, I'm celebrating actually. I'm celebrating, saying, Kenya, this is the way to go. Because now the guys are saying, We now deal with the president the way we should deal with him. Objective dealing with the president. Where if he brings a bill to parliament, it doesn't make sense, and which is not for posterity of this country, you say no to it.
All right.
And whether there is need to amend, you amend. These are the issues, Fred.
Is that how you see it? Allow me to welcome Meshach Odede, a political commentator, to this conversation. Meshach, is that how you see it, that now this is a time, the reawakening of the 13th Parliament, that now wameamuka sasa, because now they're even revealing WhatsApp messages of how they've been communicating with the president? Are you as positive as Dr. Makali Mulu that this could be the reawakening of the 13th Parliament?
Fred, I think it is okay for Dr. Makali to be positive as a member of parliament representing the people of Kitui in the National Assembly. And it is important for him to speak hope to us, Kenyans who are not in parliament and are waiting for them to give us what was promised by the elite parliamentarians and even the executive. But there is one position I still take. We've been in this country, we've seen how things work between parliament and executive. It has always been any executive in power trying to make parliament an annex of that executive. And I think it started sometimes back. Even the fact that when you are members of parliament, your parliamentary group meetings goes to State House, in itself, for me, is wrong. Every party has got their party headquarters where they can gather and say, Wiper are having their parliamentary group meeting, ODM have got their Orange House, they are actually having their group meeting, or any other hotel for that matter, because political parties also have money. But whoever brought in the idea that once Meshach is elected the president of the republic, the next thing, my party now meets at State House, in itself is wrong. That is not supposed to be there, because State House is for all citizens of this country, everybody, those who won and those who lost, and those who didn't even vote. Remember, we've talked about this here before, Fred. 8 million Kenyans were registered voters, but they never showed up to vote, to cast their vote. They are actually the silent majority. If they had casted their vote in one basket, probably they would have been the one who would have been told, you are actually the ones who won the elections. But that's a debate for another day. So what I see as a citizen is still a team trading, or if I don't use the word trading, I would say everybody's blackmailing the other. President comes out to gaslight Kenyans and tell us there's corruption, a lot of it in parliament. But at the back of our mind, we know he has done something with these parliamentarians before. And then the parliamentarians all of a sudden find some unity and goes to the house the next morning, including those who ran very quickly to him, like Honorable David Ochieng, who immediately after election ran and gave him the majority he needed to suffocate the other side, are now telling us how they have suffered for this president. Imagine we were sad as citizens that these parliamentarians, kumbe, have not been working for us. They have just been working for the president, which is not right. Then now we are in a situation where Parliament and Senate included could be thinking of, we can impeach you. And the president, I can dissolve parliament. And so every side is looking at the other with some little blackmail here and there. But that is not still giving us a lot of hope as citizens. So yes, it is okay for parliamentarians to actually stand their ground and try to do the right thing. It is also okay for the president to do the right thing, but I don't really think doing the right thing is gaslighting us and telling us how corruption is in parliament. I think for him, action would be much more appropriate at this time than just telling us. Because when you tell us you have the advantage of having raw intelligence, I would rather you act. And then when parliamentarians are rising against you, you can now talk to us as citizens and say, I have raw intelligence and I have forwarded them to the judiciary, and now that is why these members of parliament who are in court with the evidence I gave, and so this is why they are rising against me. But here you come and tell us as citizens that there is a lot of it somewhere there. And we don't know, you are not going far enough to tell us, this is what I have done. Within the rule of law, this is what I have done. I have forwarded my evidence here and there. And again, I would not be happy as a citizen to imagine that all parliamentarians as one basket are all rotten. If there is a member X, Y, or Z that have issues, it is okay to just say, we have issues with member X, Y, and Z, and the courts are doing their work, judiciary are doing their work, and soon enough you will see. But then lastly, and finally, as a citizen, I would look at it, yes, parliamentarians are not clean, that is given. But when we do a budget of 4 trillion as a country, who has the chunk of this money? Because for us as citizens of Kenya, the big issue is not who is more corrupt than the other. It is how can we stop all forms of corruption in our country so that the service delivery can be done and the citizens can find medicine in the hospital, education can be fully free, and things like that. So when we look at the 4 trillion, is the executive not having the majority of that money? Yes, they do. Parliamentarians are having a chunk of it. But now, where the majority of the money goes, is it even better? Are ministries even better? If it is not better and you are the boss there and you've done nothing completely. So why are you telling us it is easy to go and quickly look at maybe the few handouts that parliamentarians may take to pass the bill as the only thing that injures the country more than maybe more than 2 trillion that you have?
And we all seem to agree that this is not really a genuine fight against corruption. It's just a tiff between the president and his lieutenants, probably. But you look at the level of sycophancy from this WhatsApp text messages, and it's even odd that the president and members of parliament are in one WhatsApp group discussing legislation. And you see the level of sycophancy, them saying, we are here to do your work. Yes, boss, we are doing the right work. And one wonders, this level of dilution of the legislative process, is it something we can recover from?
Well, it is very hard because, you see, if there was any special task that President Ruto has acquired, is destruction of institutions in a way that no institution is able to work independently and therefore provide what we call the normal balances, checks and balances. I say so given the fact that even in appointing this multi-agency team, he excluded a very critical part of our society, which would have been almost like the moral radar for us to accept. I would have expected religious groups to be involved. I would have expected law society to be involved. I would have expected even people from the academia and people, men and women, whose credentials are beyond reproach, for it to be something independent from the normal executive involvement. Remember, all these agencies that he mentioned, whether it's anti-corruption, whether it is asset recovery authority, whether it is KRA, whether it is the office of the DPP, whether it is NIS, all those are individuals whose jobs they serve at the pleasure of the president. Whether there is tenure of office or not, they all serve under the pleasure of the president and is the appointing authority at that particular level. This therefore means whatever is happening is just pushing movement of chairs. The second issue that I found a bit obnoxious is the utterances by Moses Wetangula, when he said that he knows some of the members of parliament, he's been getting reports. What has he been doing as a speaker? Because he is an authority, he has authority to be able to call in a member, advise him, and I was happy with Kingi because Kingi at least said he has not gotten any information to that level. But you can see where Wetangula was playing the sycophancy card and therefore almost making himself exposed and exposing members of parliament unnecessarily. What Meshach has said is very true. We cannot say all members of parliament are rotten, and we cannot say all members of parliament are blameless. It's only the style that matters in this particular case. This therefore means that President Ruto needs to do slightly more. He should allow institutions to operate, whether it is anti-corruption, let them do the job, the investigation. Let DCI do the job. Let Office of the Public Prosecutor prosecute the cases, and dispassionately and without any interference from State House. But if he's going to have selective justice, it is just for his normal clearing the way for 2027. Otherwise, I don't believe the story up to now that is a genuine concern. And the way I was telling you last week, unfortunately we lost the game that I was actually anticipating that we'll be able to move to the next round. As we were doling out some money to our players here because it was good for public discourse, our girls in Thailand were almost going on strike and they lost heavily yesterday. Now, this is Africa. The other one is international, involving all the continents of the world. It shows the pretense and our selective memory to remember things that can give us immediate political gain, and we forget that our girls in Thailand needed the necessary support because they were complaining that they were not getting allowances. And these ones, we are giving them not only allowances, but we are giving them some kind of support beyond the normal. That's why I was saying, let us not think in pigeonholes. If we are thinking of sport, let it be a government policy. This is the standard under which Kenyans will operate, whether abroad or at home.
All right. Going back to Parliament, and this is what is being witnessed last week, since the President made this pronouncement and the kind of reaction that parliamentarians had, it would appear that now Parliament, because there's a collective anger in the House, that the main reaction right now is using the legislative process to get back at the President, and the risks involved in that, because they said they will drop any piece of legislation coming from the President. I spoke to one person, and anonymously, he said, quoting this issue about the impeachment of the governor for Kericho, and he said, he told me, and he's a senator, that if at all the President supports the impeachment of this governor, we will drop it. And if at all he supports, he wants the governor to remain, then we will impeach him. That is the kind of reaction members of Parliament have right now. How risky is it to use the legislative process to get back at the President?
You know, Fred, even the Bible says when you are not happy, you should not talk much, because you're likely to say things which will not. And I think that's what my colleague here is saying. When you look at what my friend David Ocheng said, he said many things. I think he thought he was telling Kenyans the right thing, but he was saying the wrong things. Because he's the one who confirmed to Kenyans that their side, the Kenya Kwanza side, have actually been working for the President and not for the country. You know, as a minority side, we have always stood very firm when it comes to the laws we are passing. The only unfortunate bit is our voice is hardly heard because we are the minority. And our democracy demands that the majority have their way, the majority will only be listened to. So the reason why I was getting a bit excited is because now the majority side has crossed to our side in terms of ensuring that there is objectivity, the way we discuss our bills. But as you realize, that particular day, we had two things we were passing. And the same style, nobody wanted to listen to the debate. It was just Weka Swali. One of them was regulations on the new e-procurement, which people were saying, kill, just maliza. So by the time even the mover was finishing, before the seconder is called, people were saying Weka Swali. And you know the question cannot be before the speaker listens up and proposes the question. So that mood that day, I'm telling you, that day even they came. That's why you see they to defer the discussion on privatization of the Kenya pipeline, Kamban. because the mood was so bad that it was just kill everything which was coming to the floor of the House. And that's what I was saying, really as we move to the future from what you are saying now, it would be important that despite this anger which we seem to have, it is important that we also sober up and agree we need to do legislation for posterity. So that whatever it is for the good of the public, what we call public good, every member of parliament should be able to support it. Whatever it is a selfish move, and we have seen a lot of selfish moves in parliament, then we should stand against and say, this is not good for the country, it is not good for the future generations, can we stop it? So I see a situation where with the time, people will come back to their senses and realize that there are things we might think that we are actually punishing the president, but we are punishing Kenyans. And on the basis of that agree, then we need to separate where we want to hit the president hard and where we should leave the Kenyans to go on with their lives by giving them the right legislation. But all said and done, a lot of us still believe that there is need for the president to apologize to the House. Why? Because this balkanization of the House, that every member is corrupt, while he claims to have some low intelligence, is unfortunate, as my colleague is saying. He should have come, and I said the other time, he would have done what Uhuru Kenyatta did. Uhuru Kenyatta came with a specific list of his cabinet and said, so and so you're stepping aside, so and you're stepping aside. And I did mention the other time that the good thing with the president, because he actually captured parliament a long time ago, immediately was elected. He knows very well he's the one who has appointed all the chairs of the committees. So if he knows a few chairs are corrupt, he would have come and said, I would propose chair number 1 should go because our intelligence is corrupt till investigations are done, because there's due diligence, which should be done. And on the basis of that, either the vice chair can assume the chairing of the committee, or we can the committee members get another chair. On that case, then you will be seen to be more serious with the war against corruption. And that's how you see the charge is now up in arms that let people be named, which is good. But how many times have we said name people? So many times. To me, I always believe that this war against corruption, Fred, we might need a new strategy to fight it. I don't think we are getting it right in terms of strategy.
There are those who argue that and I've said it before, that it's not a war against corruption, and even the pronouncements by the president, the formation of a multi-agency task force has very little to do with actually fighting corruption in Kenya. That it is just a demand because the president now is engaging in a lot of international travel. Next month he'll be going for the UN General Assembly, and that the international community, there are demands they're making, the Bretton Woods institutions, and probably that's why the president feels to pacify those interests, he needs to make a statement or two. Do you agree that that could be the force, but politically it's costing him a lot?
Yeah, Fred, two things are coming out clear. I want to agree with Dr. Makali on this. There is evidence of, Mr. Speaker put the question. That evidence is in the conversation the House leadership were having with judiciary in Mombasa last week. Of all the bills the Parliament has been able to pass, quite a majority, considerable numbers are in court, and the court has declined some of them. That is a good evidence of Mr. Speaker put the question, because they didn't exhaust the conversation in the House. They didn't look at all the other existing laws and all that. So it was, meaning the Parliament has passed many rushed bills, which probably the motivation has been what we get when we pass for the president, this kind of bills. So we are doing this for the president. So there is a lot to be desired there. Then, number two, the question would be, when the president comes out, it looks politically nice to say, we are going to face this head on. But where is the anti-corruption in all this? Are we still praying? Because, again, we have a pastor in the anti-corruption. For two consecutive opportunities, we've given anti-corruption to the church. Yes. The church, which was long bought, when before we even went for election of 2022, the church actually had declared that they have a candidate in this election for the first time. Then the church is now leading the anti-corruption, and then the president emerges from nowhere and tells us he has raw intelligence. Are those intelligence not also shared by the anti-corruption so that they can take their role seriously and do something? If it would have been really great if the president was coming out to support what the anti-corruption are doing, because they have done it out of the intelligence they've got, out of the evidence that have been tabled to them as a commission which is independent. Then Kenyans would have seen this war is genuine, it is coming from the heart. But for now, some of us are still 50-50 about it. But coming to what you are asking, yes, in a bigger way, we are controlled. Still, Africa is controlled in a bigger way than you can imagine. And it is not only the government that is controlled. The West is even controlling the civil society. They know what should be the big agenda for the civil society for this year, because I come from the civil society, and you will be aware that, okay, this time, this partner and this partner only have money for anything to deal with rule of law, or anything to do with expanding democracy, or anything to do with anti-this or that. So even the civil society are not supposed to sit on the table and behave as if they are also bribed in certain ways that don't look like bribery. Because if I tell you, Dr. Makali, that the only money I have is the money that can organize protests and everything like that, it means you as an institution also wants to be out there doing something. You will quickly go and do your proposal that says this is what we are going to do. So even the civil society are told what to do at what particular time, not directly that, Fred, go and do this. No. When I say I don't have funds for health, I only have funds for governance, then it is you to now align to what kind of funds I have. So that is how it is controlled. So when they also come to government, they probably expect the head of government to tell us what he is doing about corruption. And you may just be right, because when we are going to those big platforms and we have rattled an institution like Parliament and they are breathing fire, they even are threatening to impeach me or pass no bill that comes from me. It might also earn me a lot, because whoever is interested in those kind of situations sees that something is really happening. Right. And we are unlucky as Africa and Kenyans that we still, some of us are still locked in, and it is bad to say that even some parliamentarians are still locked in the old constitutions that we left back in 2010. A constitution that had opposition and ruling party. What we have is all parliamentarians supposed to do oversight on the executive, whether you come from UDA, ODM, Wiper, or whatever. Even when you are elected independent, you're just supposed to oversight. But when they go to the House, they also still segregate themselves and say, you know, you are in the opposition. You know, I am in the ruling party. It is, our software is still remaining before 2010, but hardware tells us that we are now in a new dispensation.
Speaking of the Constitution, this week we mark exactly 15 years since the promulgation of the Constitution, I think in 2 days' time, August 27th. So it is a nice time to take a look at that. I think one of the dailies talks about the day Kibaki and Raila increased devolved units from 14 to 47. There have been several attempts to try and amend this constitution. None has been successful this time round. But if we may look at the constitution 15 years on, where do we approach the conversation on what needs to be adjusted this time round? There have been very many attempts and very many ideas on what needs to change. 15 years on, this is a teenager, 15-year-old teenager, yes. Probably the best time to kunja akiwa mbichi bado. Yes. Well,
first of all, the Constitution is a document that is is alive to the realities of the day. And all the time, it must reflect the wishes of society at that particular time. But the same constitution can be operated by two different individuals and provide different results. I have in mind the old constitution of 1963 that was amended so many times. By the time we are getting the new constitution promulgated on 27th of August 2010, they had done almost as many amendments as the number of wishes that people had, including the amendment to bring in Section 2A that outlawed all other parties except KANU, including bringing an issue that was only targeted at assisting one minister who had committed election offense, and the president was given a chance to allow him to run in the by-election, because at that time, if you are found to have an election offense, you are barred for 5 years, which means even the next general election, you will not qualify to participate. But a minister was allowed, he went back to the constituency, he was re-elected. Now, I'm saying that because in the overall, President Kibaki promulgated the 2010 constitution almost on the tail end of his term, because he had served under the old constitution 8 years. And under the same old constitution, he was able to do a number of things. Open space for democratization, open airwaves for media houses such as this one to survive when we used to only have one or two, and it was almost a prerogative of the executive to decide who can open a new station. And the third issue was also to allow freedom of association, freedom of speech, to the extent that I was telling you earlier, Parliament almost became rogue compared to the executive. This therefore means what we need to do today is not amendment of the Constitution per se. My thinking is that we need to do an audit of the 2010 Constitution and have some freedom to discuss even for 3 years a number of issues that we feel they are serving us better, and a number of issues that we feel we can do something to make it better, including the issue of gender parity that has existed in the Constitution, but no legislation has been done in Parliament. There is also the issue of members of Parliament having almost a leeway, because they are supposed to enact an act of Parliament to allow us to recall those we feel are performing below the average. But still up to now, they have not done that. They are also supposed to legislate on what is the qualification of somebody to be a member of Parliament. But that has been watered down. What is the qualification of somebody to become a governor, to become a president? That has been watered down to the extent today somebody even without university education can run for the position of governor because of what a court of law has already pronounced itself on. So these are some of the issues. I'm talking of the word audit advisedly, so that we just don't amend for the sake of it. We look at the things that have served us well, we maintain them. We look at even the counties. That is a very serious topic. The counties, in my considered opinion, should have been less than 20. Ethiopia here, which is almost more than double the population of Kenya, they have only 14 regions. Here we have 47 counties. Some of the counties, if they were to rely on their own resources collected at the source, they will not be able to survive. And that is how devolution was killed after 1963 elections, where there was some regional governments, 7 of them, but the executive decimated those regions by denying them resources from the center. If we had somebody, and I'm not suggesting that we should, who is not interested in devolution, they can delay processes the way this regime is doing. They can delay dispersal of money under flimsy excuses, and that will destroy a baby that we feel has been able to devolve resources from the center and allow every part of this country to have some semblance of development.
Right. And talking of devolution, because it's definitely one of the successes of the new constitution. And from the argument Bonakiro has put across, the COG chairperson tends to feel different, that these units, the 47 of them, was not intended to be economically viable units. That this is just units to ensure that services are devolved to that level. Do you agree that that should be the argument, or have we missed the point of the 2010 constitution and taken a different tangent?
Fred, I remember 2015, that was five years after implementation of the new constitution. The then chair of the Budget Appropriation Committee, Mutava Musiemi, formed a small committee to audit the constitution then. That committee was led by the former Auditor General Ouko, Mr. Ouko. And that was only 5 years after the new constitution. And then a few things came out. Kenyans said then that one of the things they were concerned with was our governance structure. And then they were questioning the issue of the position of the women rep, the viability or the need to have the Senate, and then the issue of that time devolution, which was again confirmed to be the best thing to have happened to Kenyans through the new constitution. Now, over time, I think these things have not changed. In addition to what Kiro has said, there is this debate between, do we require the two houses, two chambers of parliament? That debate has been there. And I think that's a topic we might need to, as Kenyans, to open up and discuss. And that in that, then we are discussing our governance structure more so, the legislative arm. And then we will be discussing the issue of, after now 15 years, do we think still the position of the women rep should be obtainable? And depending on whether we say Senate is there or the National Assembly is there, that will upset another issue. So then the other thing is the position of the women rep was being questioned. And today, if you just scan quickly through the papers, people are still questioning that position. Whether, do we still now say enough is enough, let's have free democracy, where people go out there and elect their leaders. The other thing is the issue of the sharing of the resources. Equity has been, even though the Constitution talks about equity in sharing public resources, it is an issue we still have a tall order to achieve. And I think that's another area people are saying they wish we could also discuss. The reason why you see people clinging so much to counties and the CDF is because those are the only avenues where you ensure equity in sharing resources. Because irrespective of where you vote, money will go to your county. Irrespective of where you vote, CDF will be shared equitably, and people will be able to access the resources. And I think because of our politics, the way we've structured our politics, there is this, this urge to be, let our man be the president, is because immediately you assume the presidency, there seems to be skewed sharing of resources to the direction where the president comes from, or to the party where he comes from. So the issue of equity of sharing is another one. Now, matters of devolution. Devolution still remains a very good thing, but I think what Kenyans are concerned about now, devolution, is also the issue of, we have been talking about marginalization at the national level. I can tell you, even at the counties now, there is marginalization. You go within a county and you find within a county a certain area is being marginalized on the basis of having not voted for the governor or having other factors which the governor doesn't like. So the issue of marginalization still remains a major issue, both at the national level and at the county level. But now for the counties, the main problem is corruption. Kenyans are saying, just as we claim to have devolved corruption from the national level to the counties. And I think while we appreciate devolution, the issue of corruption at that level also needs to be discussed again. Because you have seen many times in the House, members saying, we would rather have more money at the national level because the money we are sending to the counties, we don't seem to be getting value for it. For me, I think counties still remain the best thing. But the issue of economic justification for counties, We can't ignore that. Even as the COG chair says that. Because the thing is, we can't have counties which will purely rely on the national government for survival. Counties are supposed to be, to some extent, to have some independence in terms of managing their activities and generating local revenue to push the agenda of the counties to the next level. Others, in a situation where they just rely on the national government, then they would rather be part of the national government. And I think that's the debate, that those counties which economically don't seem to be viable, then can we think of what do we do? And we've seen an attempt of forming economic blocks. Basically, the reason why counties are going for economic blocks is to be able now to get it better in terms of marketing of their products, a competitive advantage in terms of production of particular goods in the region. So these are the issues. But then the issue of the gender, as he says, we've been talking about this gender issue since 2010. We don't seem to have gotten it right, even up to now.
15 years later.
15 years. Do we still continue to have it in our constitution that we need still? Because if you can't achieve it, you would rather then open it and discuss, and Kenyans say what they think about it. And then there are others, also small areas in the issue of the independent commissions. The constitution has come out very strongly on independent commissions. But the question is, especially like what we saw last week, where the EACC is now being told to join a committee which is chaired by the executive, the presidency. Yeah. The question is, then are these independent commissions serving the purpose which was intended? Because they are drawing a lot of public resources. Are they serving that purpose? Or is it time we singled out the ones we think are good for the country, and the ones we think they are not serving their purpose, then we dissolve them by constitutional amendment? These are the issues, Fred.
15 years after the promulgation of the Constitution, it is time for us to take stock and look at what is big, what we got right as we mark 15 years of the 2010 Constitution. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation with Mesha Kodede.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half.
Welcome back. You're still watching my Morning Cafe, and we're talking about Katiba at 15. 2 days from now, we mark exactly 15 years since the promulgation of the Constitution. And we're just taking stock of what are the wins, what are the successes, and some of the challenges, issues around boundaries, delimitation, of which we are in defiance of that express provision of our Constitution. The recall clause that Bonakiru has mentioned, integrity, chapter 6, gender equity, NGCDF that MPs are insisting us to be included in our laws, even much as devolution. And when I did want to take on this, it is high time now we take a look at what the challenges are and what the successes have been.
Yeah, Fred, the truth is, 15 years doing the same thing, you should be an expert by all standards. If I stay in class for 15 years, I should complete a few courses in that school by all standards. So Kenya, having the 2010 Constitution, we should now know what has worked and what has not worked. And we should be easy and accept what has not worked is this, and what do we do to now make it work, or do we do away with it completely and put in something that works? Because some of these things were quick fix for political experience. So number one, devolution was more looked at not from the Mbai's perspective. It was people like Mbai who came up with the whole concept, had a good idea, and I agree with Dr. Makali, devolution still is a good thing. But the political class gave it more of a political lens than the economic and otherwise. So the political lens worked well at that time because if us in Migori we have a county, that's a good thing. Like it was the best thing that ever happened. We are now a county. We will have our governor, we will have our senator, women rep and all that. That was really nice. But looking at the economy later, even the governors had to now, because right now, let me use my county, Migori, for example. If Ochilo Ayako, the governor, does a certain road, and that road, let's say the ring road, for example, in the Lake Victoria, because Lake Victoria is a huge economic hub for the people living around that area, including the rest of the country. But you don't have access, so you do the road, the ring road on Lake Victoria, just the part of Migori, and then Honorable Gladys Wanga does not do it in Homa Bay, Anyang' Nyong'o does not do it, or Anyang' Nyong'o does it in Kisumu and Orengo does not do it, and the Busia does not do it. That road is still useless. Economically, it is not serving any purpose. So that road needs to do all the way from Migori to Busia and extend completely to the borders. Then we will be able to say this road is now giving access to business from Uganda or Busia all the way to Migori, crossing to Tanzania. But those are some of the things we didn't look at. So it has forced governors to form now the economic blocks to even see if they can mediate and all that. That is one. So it is time, 15 years later, that we should look at us in the eye and say, what has worked in the devolved government and what has not worked? Number two, quickly, we need to also check even the presidency. You know, the whole thing about the presidency was to devolve some powers, because the whole country was like choking, and we were like, we need some powers to be taken away from presidency and devolve somewhere else, because the president before the 2010 constitution was almighty, yeah, too powerful. But I bet I will be corrected by Akina Honorable Kirwa, who are on the table. Maybe we created two centers of power without knowing, because we were obsessed by devolving powers. So this thing of deputy president elected with you in the ticket. So if he becomes a thorn, you have to deal with it, because the only way is impeachment by parliament. And that will require you to actually go the route where we had discussed at the beginning, where we are going to marshal parliament to give us what we want. And sometimes might force you as the head of state to go corrupt, to get these people to impeach this thorn in your flesh. So it's like you are stuck with him or her. But again, before that, you could dish out deputy presidency or vice presidency anyhow. Like Honorable Kirwa has not done what I want. He is going home. I am picking Dr. Makali Mulu. Dr. Makali Mulu has to sing my song whatsoever. So Kenyans were also bored with that. So I think we are 15 years later, we have tested the other one, and we have tested this. It is time to look at ourselves in the eyes and say, what do we want? Do we want a deputy president that is more like another center of power within presidency or not? Okay. Then the last one will be the CDF. I have a serious issue with CDF and even the education. If the policy of government is to give our children free education in high school and primary, I am not sure Dr. Magali will guide me as a member of parliament and probably have been in this for some time. Give me a way that this will make sense to me as a common mwananchi. If we have 1 billion to take care of our children's education, why do we take this 1 billion to give you as a member of parliament, and then you give me as a mwananchi in the bursary check, and then I take it back to the school, which is a government school? Make it make sense for me. Why don't you put a budget to that school and ask me, as your electorate, take your son or your daughter to school. The money is paid. Right. So when you have 1 billion and it is given to members of parliament, and then members of parliament gives us as a check, it is not ending up in school as 1 billion. It might end up in school as 800 million, because they are overhead cost, the admin cost. You have a constituency bursary team, and officers are 290 with members of those committees. So I think somebody has not made it make sense to me. Then the second thing, we have traded a lot of words on when it comes to CDF, NGCDF. We moved it from CDF to NGCDF, but even made members of parliament look like they are just guiding, they are not directly involved. It is having its committees, they are just patrons of the fund. But still the question begs, how do you oversight the fund that you are a patron to? Yes. When it has done a school, and it is very well, it is okay to link you with that. When the Auditor General questions something on it, you are not part of it. It has its own committee. Yes. So we need to agree 15 years later, are we still having CDF in the manner it is, or we are doing away?
And this conversation, and I think it has been lost, it was lost in the fray when the president talked about corruption in parliament. Because that same day when he spoke that, his ally, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, made some very serious pronouncements to do with the matters devolution and what have you. He mentioned about NGCDF and the fact that he does not support it. He talked about county oversight and said that this should not be with the Senate, this should be with the county assemblies. He also talked about fully devolving education. Now, these were very serious pronouncements and very serious suggestions for a man who has been very politically consequential for this country. But we do not seem to be having that conversation. I think he was ahead of us in talking about matters constitution. What is your take on that?
Well, I want to begin by supporting Meshach or Dede on the issue of the human resource component, because we seem to run the risk of double engagement of individuals doing the same job. And that's why I say we need to do a serious human resource audit, both at the county and at the national level. In the sense that you see in the county, there is the MCA at the lowest level, there is the ward administrator, then there is the administrator at the level of the constituency or thereabout, and of course there is the MP. All these are positions that could have been, and there is the chief at the ward level. Of course, some of the locations extend to almost a ward, and some maybe 2 locations comprising 1 ward. Those are some of the duplications that we need to sift through and see how we can make a saving, and we can also create sense at that particular level. Now, this NGCDF, now there is clamor for saying let the money go all the way to the ward level. I don't have a problem with that. But I have a problem with somebody who is a patron, somebody who is an MCA, having a project that is almost a duplication of what somebody else will be doing. In all this, some money will filter away. What I would have preferred is, yes, let us have this money ring-fenced, for example, for Cherangani constituency, and for the 7 wards in Cherangani. We know how much will go to Kablamai, how much will go to another one and another one. But the money should be dispensed, expended by an organ within the system of the office of the governor.
Yes.
Then, as MCA of Kablamai, I become somebody to oversight and also to get involved with identifying the needy projects within the area. And therefore come up, and those recommendations will have to involve the public.
Okay.
And that the list of our priorities are taken to the level of the county, and implementation is done. As for me as MCA of that area, to say no, this is not within the framework that we gave you.
Do you think that to some extent the politicians and the political elite were reluctant to let go of some of the provisions of the old constitution? CDF was there before the new constitution. And the whole point of devolution was to take the same resources down there, meaning that CDF was not going to be useful after the new constitution. It is also the same issue raised about the provincial administration, that the government was reluctant to let go of that. Yet devolution would have sorted out all that. We still have chiefs, we still have DOs and all these people.
You know, we've not let go, because even the existence of provincial administration, which is still there, is something that is outside the constitution. But because the politicians have found it necessary to sort of rein in good manners to the natives of those particular areas, they are still using them. The issue of CDF, in the old constitution, we did not have serious alternative. It was actually a trial, starting with 6 million shillings per year. It went to 1734. For the 5 years I served, my last 5 years, we got about 100 million as Cherangani constituency. Today, I'm told some constituencies are getting 165, 197, and so forth. This is a lot of money if it is properly utilized. Okay. But the main problem today, I can say without fear of contradiction, that if there was serious audit, and I think the office of the auditor is overstretched, if there was serious audit on some of the constituency projects, many of the MPs will end up in jail.
Right.
Because there is no serious audit. Because some of the projects, you are told, this school has consumed 10 million shillings. Why? They build 5 classrooms. A classroom to be built at the cost of 2 million shillings. Where are you bringing these stones? From Italy?
Right.
The truth is, there is a problem about corruption right from the ward all the way to the national. And these are some of the things. Now, the other issue which I feel is important, let us look at the model that we are trying to copy, the American model. No state is supposed to run a budget deficit. It is only the federal government that can run a deficit. But every state must balance their books. Here in Kenya, if you are to do an audit of every county, all counties will be closed because they run a budget deficit, partly because of pending bills, partly because of projects that were started by the previous governor cannot be completed by the sitting governor because they want to start their own projects without rationalizing. If it's a health center, if it's a hospital, it's for the same people that we are serving. So these are some of the issues that I feel we need to do an audit. Finally, Fred, on this constitution, we need to accept, are we going parliamentary or are we going presidential? This is a mongrel which was arched in Naivasha because they wanted to fix Raila. And they changed from parliamentary system, they went to presidential without re-engineering all other clauses. Because those who know law, and I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of imagination, they say in law, when you change one thing within the document, it will affect many other laws. And for the period I was in parliament, as you change something that you delete and insert, you must also look at other clauses that are relevant and coincidental to the section that you have deleted.
And as you make your final comments, Bwana Makali Mulu, the 11th Parliament, 12th Parliament, and now the 13th Parliament has contributed to some of the dilution of this constitution. Those were the houses that were hoped to help in the implementation of this constitution. Their reluctance to actually fully move, their insistence on CDF, their failure to ensure that we have proper laws for the gender equity and all this. How much can you blame the houses of legislation for what we are seeing 15 years later?
You know, in Parliament there is a committee which should be called Constitutional Implementation and Oversight Committee. And initially it was a very powerful committee because it was supposed to ensure that whatever was supposed to be done by Parliament to implement the new constitution was done. And I think to a large extent, that work was done. But as you are saying, even by design, I think the constitution had also gaps. As we are saying, it is a new constitution. I think the good thing is now we have gone over it. Like Honorable Kiro was saying earlier. In a situation where you are saying you want to recall a member of parliament, and you give that power to legislate on the same to the sitting members, it cannot happen. So these are the gaps we are saying we need to review. But coming to what the issues our colleagues were discussing, I agree with them with what they are saying. But let's not forget history. The reason why we want devolution is because when resources were centralized at Nairobi, some regions were seriously marginalized. And that's why you see areas like Mandera, Wajir, people are saying we are so happy. The whole issue, why you hear even members of parliament saying CDF should remain, even now we are thinking about a World Development Fund, is the issue of marginalization, Fred. That once the money is centralized in an area, some people will never get the money, and basically because of they will do our politics. I agree with what my colleague is saying here, that the issue of CDF bursaries, and I've said it, I'm on record, if you go to the answer, I've said, today, if the money was given back to the Ministry of Education, and we say we have free education, primary and secondary, to an extent that I will not wake up and find a total orphan in my compound telling me, Mheshimiwa, I have no bursary, I'm not able to go to school because I have not received any bursary, I'll be the happiest person. I've said, by the way, even giving out this bursary to the poor through our committees is a very controversial, very tedious and controversial issue. Some MPs, their committees would be able to give, some other constituencies, they never give at all. So what we are saying is, and the good thing is we've all gone to school. Why can't we do research in terms of how much does it cost to offer free education at the primary and the secondary education? And look at this bursaries all over the place. The MP has a bursary, President has a bursary, Women Rep has a bursary, the county government has a bursary, and consolidate that fund to one fund. So that we say, who is going to oversee this fund? The way we do with help. If that is done so that to an extent that we don't see children coming, the unfortunate bit is spread. As members of parliament, and Kira will attest to this, every weekend you are in your constituency. You are interacting with the people who vote for you. And you go and you are told, this is a total orphan, has not gone to school. You ask why. You are being told it's because they have no fees. Now, imagine what it happens to you. Immediately, that will trigger an action. Either if you have some bursary, you support. If you have no bursary, you go to your pocket. Because you want these children to go to school because they are the only hope for their families since their parents are dead. Now, I agree with him 100%. Can we agree? Let's consolidate these funds, but then whoever will be in charge, assure Kenyans that we'll never see children who are not going to school because the money has not reached them. Because our fear is we centralize again, and then many students drop out of school. That would be the worst thing to happen. And I can tell you for sure, for me, I've said I have no problem. The money can go, but I want peace so that when I wake up in my compound, I don't find 100 children saying you have not gone to school.
Right. Yeah. Parting shot.
Thank you, Fred. I think it is okay, Dr. Makali. All you need to do as a representative for people of Kitui Central is simply to have good data. These are the number of children in my constituency who are supposed to join primary school. These are the numbers that are supposed to join secondary school. And once you have the number right, the national government should definitely take it over. But Fred, on finishing, I think from my end as a member of, as a citizen, devolution, probably we still need to look at a few things that probably we left for the national government, especially on education. I would propose the county government to do infrastructure, classrooms, complete classrooms, high schools and primary schools, including what they have now as ECD. Because today, as a member of parliament, we will find, you know, Kenyans are very huge on social media. We will find a dilapidated school and we do a picture of it and we tell governor, look, this is in your county. Then governor cannot do those primary schools and high schools. So personally, I would think infrastructure to be given to county government. Then
education infrastructure.
Then TSC remains with teachers, staffing, and exams remains with national government. So when governor has done the classrooms, TSC gives the teachers, and national government does the examinations, and we have education. Then we do the data, like I've said. All children in Kenya who are joining primary, then we know they are these numbers. This is the money. And high school, this is the money. And then we don't have to do CDF, checks, bursaries, and all that. And then probably we may lower the cost of education by doing away with rankings of schools and probably boarding school. I don't know what role boarding school plays. Because right now, the fee I'm paying at a national school, a girls' school, 50% of that money is about boarding. What if we just did away with those boardings? Because, Fred, you and I, meeting at the University of Nairobi, you went to Mangu, I went to some school near my home, and we are doing the same course in university. How does you being in Mangu now help you above me? Where do you put that in your credentials? I mean, it plays no role. At the end of the day, we graduate if we are engineers. We are both engineers. There is no lower engineer because my high school was near my home and it was not a boarding.
Thank you, thank you. Parting shot, Bwana Kiro, you only have a minute or so.
Well, let me say this. This regime and many other regimes to come, what we need to do is to promote independence of institutions and to allow them to flourish according to their own internal capacities.
All right. Thank you so much, Kipruto Rapkirwa, who has served as Minister for Agriculture in the Kibaki administration, and also as MP for Cherangani for about 4 electoral cycles. Mesha Kodede, political commentator, and Dr. Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time here. Yes, 15 years of the new constitution, Katiba at 15. That is a big story and big discussion this week. We'll continue looking at that. The big headlines today: use and dump on the Standard. Who's being used and dumped, and you should see the WhatsApp messages. President William Ruto has been sending messages to MPs. How to clinch top senior school slot on the Daily Nation matters. Education. Remember, today schools are opening this week for the third term of 2025. And so, yes, you will definitely experience some traffic. And these are the headlines today. We hope for better headlines tomorrow. Next up, Monday Blitz.